Okay, how to create a contour mapping. So if we're given a function in two variables, such as this one where c of dm is equal to 40d plus 0.15m. If we want to draw the curves in here, the contour mapping, what we could do is we can go ahead and set c equal to 0. So this entire side gets set equal to 0, and then we have a function with just two variables. With this one, we've set m to be our y-axis, and d is going to be our x-axis. For lining things up, with a little bit of solving down here, we can go ahead and isolate m on one side all by itself, such as what you would do if you isolated y on one side by itself. Same thing could be done with 100, plugging it in, setting the whole equation equal to 100, solving down, getting m on one side by itself. This works out to be right around negative 267d plus 667. So there'd be a y-intercept of 667, and then a slope on this line is going to be negative 267. So that's the slope of this line going down here. Don't worry too much about mapping these out. I'm not going to be asking you to draw these contour mappings, but we do need to know how to read them and evaluate some functions based on them. All right, so the first question we're going to try to answer on this is we want to figure out if you drive for 3 days, so d equaling 3, and travel 200 miles, exactly what is our cost going to be? So what I'm going to do is go ahead and draw some lines in to go along with this. The first one is going to correspond with 3 days, so it's going to be right about there. And then the next one is going to be 200 miles. So 200 miles is going to be up 1, 2 on our y-axis. And we're looking at right where these intersect. So as you can see, this is in between the 100 for our cost and the 200 contour mapping line for our cost. So directly in between, it looks to be about equal distance from this side as it is this side. So I would estimate this cost for driving 3 days and driving for 200 miles to be right about in between 100 and 200, or 150, I guess it would be dollars for our cost. All right, what about these other ones though? What about the cost for driving for 100 days and only traveling 4 miles? Well, if we look at our contour mapping, we don't have 100 days here at the bottom. It only goes up to about 5 days on our graph. Now we could draw a much bigger contour mapping, right? Extend out that d-axis or the x-axis off to the right a lot further, but it's going to be very tough to answer that one. Based on what we have right here, I would say this one does not exist. All right, what about 4 days and 100 miles though? All right, so let's adjust what exactly we're looking at. All right, so our vertical line here is going to move over to 4 days, and our horizontal one is going to go to only 100 miles. So it looks to be right about there. Now thinking about our graph, let's zoom in here. It's still between 100 and 200, but I would say this one is now much closer to 200 here than it would be to the 100 that extends out about this far. So I'm going to estimate this to be much closer to 200 than 100. Let's say that that's going to be approximately 175, just based on the estimate. All right, one last question on this one. Suppose we rent the car for 3 days. So we're fixing our number of days at 3. Is the cost increasing or decreasing function of miles? All right, so we're going to 3 days along this axis, and we want to know, ignoring this one, if our number of miles increases here, is our cost increasing? So as we travel up this direction, right along our 3 days, we are somewhere in between 100 and 200, but as we increase, we go to 200, keeps going up, we get to the 300 contour mapping, then the 400, and then if we continued up here, you'll see it goes to 5 and 6. So we'd say, yeah, this is increasing the cost as our number of miles increases as we move up this line. All right, so I hope this helps out on reading contour mappings. I know some of these can be a little bit tricky as you are trying to make estimates. Just do your best. get it close as possible. Good luck.